she was talking about grief and she had said, grief is like a backpack. That just really stuck with me because I was like, that is probably the best analogy I have ever heard because there are days when that backpack that you're going to have carrying with you every day is going to be really, really heavy. There's going to be lots of stuff packed in there. But then there's going to be days when it's like, oh, I can do this. It's not that heavy. And that was how that just came to be. And I was like, that's a perfect name for this, the backpack of grief. So yeah, that's how that came up to be the title.
Hi, I'm Kristen and this is the Overcomers Podcast. I am so excited for you to hear the stories of incredible people overcoming trials and turning them into triumphs. From everyday moms and dads to entrepreneurs to community leaders and beyond, you'll see how everyone has a story of overcoming, and those stories are what connect us all. Let's hop right in. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overcomers Podcast. I'm Kristen Brunius. I'm your host. So just finished recording with Danielle, the author of The Backpack of Grief. And before you stop the recording and say to yourself, Kristen, I haven't had anyone pass away in my life recently. I don't think I really need to listen to an episode on grief. Just hold up right there. Grief doesn't necessarily mean the loss of a loved one. It can mean so many more things, as you'll hear in my episode with Danielle. I think it's one that you're going to walk away with some tangible tools for your toolbox and maybe a few tangents along the way. So apologies. Danielle was just super easy to talk to and was one of those people that I felt like I could have talked about 100 different things with. And so I hope that you enjoy this episode. As you're listening, if there's someone that comes to mind, maybe someone who's dealing with a loss or a transition or broken relationship, be sure to send them this episode and be sure to like and follow and just appreciate your support. Speaking of support, this episode and all episodes are self-sponsored by my business with Soul Naturals. And one of the things that's been really on my heart this season is to be a little bit louder about hormonal health and mental health, especially as I am in perimenopause and so many of you who listen are. And if you're a guy and you are listening, there's someone in your life who is struggling with some of these things. And I just did a post this morning about the highest suicide rate, the highest time period of suicide for women is ages 35 to 55, which no big surprise is exactly when we are going from perimenopause into menopause. And so even if you're a guy who's listening, please, there's women in your life that you care about. And we need to be louder about mental health and hormonal health. And having said that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about an herb called maca. We actually have it in two different products from Soul Naturals. We have it in the yellow drink, which is what I like to call the hormone drink. It's called Soul Excel. And then we also have it in a capsule called Soul Maca XD. The XD stands for extra dose of maca. So the Excel is a variety of different things, including the maca, but the capsule Soul Maca XD is just the capsule for maca. And maca has been known for centuries to be awesome at helping balance hormones. So we're talking about energy and sex drive and clarity and better circulation and all of those things. But specifically today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about maca, the capsule. It actually also has cordyceps in there, which is a mushroom. And we know mushrooms are so good for so many things. So go to my website, soulnaturals.com/Kristen. Check out those two products, Soul Excel and maca. I can tell you for me, when I started taking maca 8 years ago, at the time, I wasn't going through perimenopause. And so it was just awesome for me, as I was dealing with some PMS symptoms and some of that kind of stuff. But now that I've gone on to perimenopause, it has just been something that's been supportive of what my body's trying to do. It doesn't contain hormones. It just helps to balance and to nourish your body and to achieve hormonal balance. So go check that out, soulnaturals.com. Once again, the two products are called Soul Excel. That is a drink. It's like a pineapple-ish flavored drink. And then the capsule is called Soul Maca XD, and it'll be up on the screen as well. All right, let's hop right into the episode. Hey there, welcome back to Overcomers. So excited you guys are here. We're back with another amazing episode, and this week we have Danielle Carragher, who did I pronounce that right?
Carragher.
Carragher. Ah,
Carragher.
knew I was gonna mess up. The look on your face was like, I think
I was
yeah,
like, that's okay. I
it's
knew you
okay.
because you had already said, I'm going to mess this up. You know what? Believe me, there have been so many mess ups I mean, we have a lot of different pronunciations, not a problem.
Well, and I will tell you, like, one of the most important days of your life, your wedding,
Yeah.
my DJ at our wedding was like, David and Kristen Brinius. And I was like, oh my word, how much did we pay this guy? And for those of you guys who have not heard the pronunciation of my name, it's Brunius. And I was like,
Yes.
for real, like, for how
Yeah.
much we paid you, DJ, you should know how to pronounce my last
Right.
name.
And if you had a question, ask, please.
I know, I know. But I was telling Danielle before we started, like, I have this thing with last names where I'm always, okay, I'm so afraid of pronouncing last names wrong that when I was an eighth grade teacher, they wanted me to be like the person that announces the names as the graduates walk by.
Oh,
And I was like, I've like literally taught these kids for an entire year. I knew all of their last names, but I was
yeah.
so afraid I was going to mispronounce something. And then the more I think about it, the more nervous I get. And
Yeah.
then the more
Yeah.
likely I am to mispronounce it, like I just did. So
Right. Right.
anyway, let's try that again. Danielle Carragher.
Yes.
I
Yes.
got it.
You got
Awesome.
it. You got it.
And she and I met on social media. Thank
Mhm.
goodness for the internet, which brings
Yep.
people together.
Yep. Yep.
And we hit it off. And I really love your mission. So the book that she wrote is called The Backpack of Grief. It's less a book and more of like a workshop, a journal,
Right.
workbook. And it comes with, just everyday reflections and the days. So if you guys are interested in something that you could do fairly quickly in the morning, I mean,
Yeah.
the actual devotional is only about a page and a half or 2 pages long, and
Mm.
then it leaves room for reflection. And if you're listening and you're like, grief, like, I don't have anybody who died in my life recently. Well, first of all, lucky you. And
For real.
second of all, just know that the kind of grief that we're going to be talking about today isn't just death. There are many forms of grief. And so I wanted to start with the concept of the backpack. And it's so ironic because just last night I was talking with my two girls. My one daughter's going to be a freshman. My other daughter's going to be a sophomore. And we were just having the discussion of backpacks, like, oh, Mom, what backpack am I going to get this year? And my one daughter said to my other daughter, well, you better not get that backpack because you're not going to be able to fit all the stuff you need in there. And that's such a great visualization of what the reason you called the book The Backpack of Grief, because backpacks can be, those small little mini backpacks up to, the hiker's backpack or the army
Yeah.
backpack, and they can range in weight from nothing to hundreds of pounds. So
Yeah.
why did you name the book The Backpack of Grief? Where did that imagery come from?
So at one point, I had found this woman named Nurse Hadley on Instagram, and she's a hospice nurse. And she talked all about, her stories of seeing people in hospice and the grief that goes with that. And she was talking about grief, and she had said, grief is like a backpack. And that just really stuck with me because I was like, that is probably the best analogy I have ever heard because there are days when that backpack that you're going to have carrying with you every day is going to be really, really heavy. There's going to be lots of stuff packed in there. But then there's going to be days when it's like, oh, I can do this. It's not that heavy. And I just really loved that analogy, the like the visual of that, because everybody knows what carrying a backpack is like. And they know that, like, I mean, obviously in school we have backpacks and you're going to carry it with you all over. So, yeah, that was how that just came to be. And I was like, that's the perfect name for this, the backpack of grief. So, yeah, that's how that came up to be the title.
I
So,
love that. I love that. And I think it's almost like it's not only very descriptive, but in a way it's kind of comforting too, because
mhm,
by explaining that to someone, so if I was someone, and no, we're going to talk about different forms of grief, but for now, let's stay on the form of grief of losing a loved one.
right.
When you say to them, grief is like a backpack, it gives them comfort to understand that, like, when you have one of those really heavy backpack days, when the
Mhm,
backpack just feels like you cannot move forward, realize that a few days, hours, weeks, months later, there's going to be days where you could fling the backpack across the room because it's so light.
right.
And so it prepares them for the fact that there's going to be a bit of up and down.
Mhm,
And I know for me that if somebody had told me that as went through various types of grieving over various things, yeah, like today it's really heavy,
mhm.
but maybe tomorrow it's going to be a little bit lighter. And I love that visualization. So yeah, love that.
Yeah, and you don't and the other thing is that it's so many people, I feel like, say grief is something that they get told you have to get over it. You have to
Mm,
move, just get rid of it. You just move on. But with a backpack, you're like, I don't have to get rid of this. I can carry it with me and I'll just get stronger as I keep moving forward. So that was another, thing that I thought about. I was like, because that for me anyway, I'm the type of person, if you tell me, well, you need to do this, I'm going to do the complete opposite. You aren't going to tell me what to do. So you're going to tell me to get rid of it. No, I'm not going to, but you don't want to stay stuck in that either. So,
right, right. Do you want to tell us a little bit of the backstory? You actually wrote this on a plane
yeah.
after how many people in your life had you lost?
There were 6 people within 5 years that we had lost. It was my cousin, my mom, my husband's best friend. Oh, my father-in-law was first, and then my mother-in-law, my uncle. So we just had a bunch of people that we lost, all different ways too. So, but really, my mom was the one that really kind of, the reason why I did this whole thing was, well, I shouldn't say it's just my mom, because so many people were stuck in their sadness, and one of them was my dad. And I had been visiting him. I live in Illinois, he lives in California, and I had gone to go visit him, and it was a quick trip. And when I was getting ready to leave, he was like, I'm really sad you're going home. It was so fast. I wish you could have stayed longer. All the things. And of course, I was like, yeah, I hated leaving him because he lives by himself. And so I know he's lonely. So I got on the plane on the plane, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch a funny movie. We're going to I'm just going to laugh a couple hours. It's going to be great. Well, God has a huge sense of humor, because I get on the plane and he's like, or the flight attendant is like, well, the entertainment system's not working today. And I was just like, oh, great. Okay, awesome. So now I'm not watching a funny movie. So as I'm sitting there looking out the window, and I was thinking about how everybody's was sad and just stuck in their sadness. And I was like, I'm excited for the people that I love, that I know Jesus, that I'm excited for them. They are in the best place ever. They're in the permanent home. That's my goal, is to be there too. So, I was just like, as sad as I am that they're not here, it's a selfish thing, because I want them here with me. But I'm like, you know what? They're in God's glory and they're having the best time of their life. So I was just like, I really wish I could get people to get unstuck from being so sad. And that's when God was like, and now you're going to write about everybody's sadness. And I was just like, oh, this is what we're doing on my iPad, sitting on a plane. By the time I landed, I had the 30 days done. And I mean, if you look at look at the layout of the book. It's not the prettiest, but it's because I wrote it and then I had it published. I had it to Amazon published within that week. I was like, God was like, you're not waiting on this. You're just doing it. And my husband didn't even know I did it. And then he was like, wait, you did what? You're what? You're an author? Wait, what? So yeah, it was a little bit crazy. He's like, who are you? But so that is the story of how it came to be. And then there have just been so many different things that have come out of writing it, and just realizing that it's not just about the loss of a person. When we think of grief, everybody, we all think of losing a person, but it really has become so many more things that it's just been a huge blessing. And I'm super excited that God was able, well, that I listened to what God is telling me, and I did what he said, because I have seen that quite a few people are like, "Oh my gosh, this helped me in this area, or this helped me in that area." So, it's been a big blessing. So,
It's
yeah,
like
that's
it's
the story.
yeah, and it's like he knew what he was gonna do already. Like it's
Yeah.
almost as if he wrote your story.
Yeah. Yeah. I told my husband said to me the other day, he goes, it's really sad that your mom's not here, but what a gift she gave you and I was like, because she's gone. Because had she not gone, I probably wouldn't have dove into grief as much as
Mhm.
I have. Um, but he's like, what a beautiful gift she gave you. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. She really did. So,
Yeah,
and I mean, and obviously God too, but, yeah,
yeah,
without that. So, but
yeah.
he works all things for your good. So, Romans 8:28. So yeah, that's
He
where I'm at with
does.
that. So
This is a totally off topic question, but
yeah.
I've talked to so many people who have done that process on Amazon. And I think for the listeners, I haven't done this with other people who have mentioned that they've used the Amazon
Hmm.
publishing service. But first of all, how cool that you
Yeah,
don't have to go through,
for
because
real.
that used to always be the holdup, was like, oh, all these people would write books and then they'd have to present it to some sort of middleman and then they'd have to pay
Yeah.
all this money. And I wonder to myself, over the decades and whatever, maybe
Hmm.
even centuries,
Yeah.
how many books were left unpublished because the process was so hard. So
Yeah.
not on the topic, but just a curious question.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
It was a learning curve for sure, because there are certain like boundaries and things like that you have to, like, for your cover and stuff like that. But it was pretty like, you could use what they have. So like I could go on to Amazon KDP, which is the Kindle Direct Printing. They have covers there that are pre-done, and I could have just picked one of those and then plugged in what I wanted. But I knew what I wanted my cover to look like, so they were like, "You can upload your photo here." And so,
And here's their cover for you guys who are on video.
yes. And then so I had that cover and I just uploaded it, and then it put it into their design. And then I just like moved things around a little bit, my wording and stuff like that. And then also it was a pretty easy process to upload the draft of, what I wrote. Then you just clicked on, okay, submit. And then it gave you like, oh, this is outside of the boundaries of your 6x9, form or whatever. Okay. And then they were like, we can redo it for you. Just click this button. And okay. So I clicked the button. They formatted it for me. And then it was like, okay, review it, see if it looks good. And then we'll move on to the next step. And then it was maybe, like I said, I think I had put it in on like Monday night. I was trying to get it up in, it took me a few nights, because it was kind of a struggle of, where am I putting this, and this isn't falling in here. But then by Thursday I had it all ready and I hit submit. And so then by the weekend it was like, your proof copy is ready to go. And so it was really pretty simple, but there was a learning curve, but there was a lot of help there too. So, if you have a book to write, I'm telling you, that's the way to go. It was not, if I can do it, you can do it for sure.
And do you have any background in writing or, you know,
No.
No.
I mean, I've always loved to write and, it's just I've always thought about writing a children's book, but I never did it. But other than that, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So I think the point I'm trying to get across is if you're listening and you have an Amazon account and God's telling you to write something, do it, right?
Do it.
Do
Yep,
it.
do it.
Do it.
Yep.
So sorry for that tangent.
No,
Just
no.
I'm one of my bucket list things is to write a book as well.
Do it.
Um, I don't know what about though. I always wanted to have a podcast too. And I
Well,
had all these ideas. And actually, my husband, just reminded me of this recently. And I was like, did I really? And he's like, you always talked about having a podcast, Kristen. And I was like,
see?
I don't think I realized how often I said it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like once I knew it was a Tuesday afternoon and I knew that God even gave me the name and I picked up the first episode was literally recorded from my phone and
Yeah.
the next episode was with my best friend in South Dakota and I made tons of mistakes and I think when the time comes when he's like, you're going to write a book, it'll be just as clear as that.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. You will
'Cause
know.
I've written a few rough drafts. One I wrote when my kids were really little, and I sent it to a few girlfriends and they butchered it up.
Yeah.
Like a
You're like,
good
thank
friend
you.
would. And then
Yeah.
I did write a book about network marketing because I've been in the network marketing field for over a decade, but that field changes so much. By the time I'd
Yeah.
write that book, it'd be outdated.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to grief. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we were going to talk about 5 types of grief today, and you gave me a little bit of an outline. So
Yeah.
why don't you take it away and I'll just, interject as needed.
Okay, sure. So one of the first ones, so I came up with these different forms of grief, but I also correlated it with days in the book that I wrote, and then I also added on to a Bible verse that I felt like went really well with what we were talking about. So, one of the first ones that I have come to realize, especially for me, because I'm going to be one of these soon, is becoming an empty nester. So, as a mom, you have kids that are growing up, they're moving out, they're doing their own thing. But it also really applies because I have a younger brother and he has young kids, and his wife was telling me, I'm so sad that like she's going into kindergarten now, and I'm like, so you have all of these kids that are moving on to different stages of life. So as a mom, all these seasons are, you're seeing all these different seasons and you're like, oh, I'm sad to see that one go. So
Because you can't hold
um
on to it. It just,
right,
you try
it's
to embrace it and cherish it, but that's so hard as a mom.
it is so, so hard. And, you know, day that I correlated with this was some days are just heavy. And there are some days when you're just I'm so sad. And even now, I think back to when my kids were little and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it was so fun." But I also have been the one because in this group of girls that I'm friends with, I'm the oldest one. So they have all younger kids and they all talk about, oh my gosh, this is going on and this is going on. And I'm like, cherish the moments. But also, I love where I'm at with my kids right now too. And I'm enjoying the moments now. Instead of being so sad about the moments that have passed, I'm trying to really live in the moment now because I know this moment is not going to last and it's going to pretty soon I'm going to be like you're going to be married and am going to think, "Oh, remember when you were just in college?" or so that is kind of my thing that I've been really trying. The application part is to just enjoy the moment. The Bible verse that I had to go with that was Matthew 11:28. Come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And I feel like, in those days when it's just so heavy and you're like, I'm so sad, just give it to God. And He's gonna, that is really what I did. And that was when I got the, yeah, but be happy now. Like, enjoy what you have now. Like, when your kids were little, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to put the seatbelt on these kids. I'm so tired of doing that. Guess what? There was a day that came and you were like, get in the car, and I don't have to buckle your seatbelt, enjoy the moments as they go on. So yeah, that was the takeaway I have for that one. So for sure.
Yeah, and I feel this so deeply. I went through this a couple years ago. I went somewhere, I think it was like a work conference or something, and while I was gone, which I do travel quite a bit for work, but this particular time, I think I was gone a little bit longer, and as I was gone, I wasn't really hearing a whole lot from the kids at home, and then I got
Hmm.
home, and they were just like, "Hey, mom, what's up?" And it just broke me. It just
Yeah.
shattered me, and I'm trying to
Hmm.
think. I think at the time, maybe my son was probably like they were probably like 10,
Yep.
13, and 14 or something like that,
Yeah.
because now they're almost 12, 14, and 15. So
Okay.
somewhere in there, and I was like, "That's it. They don't need me
They don't
anymore.
need me.
My purpose is gone.
Your purpose. Yes.
What what
That's,
all I do is drive them around and feed them. They don't care." And it was just like
yep.
that transition from like exactly what you're saying, where it's like, "Mom, can you help me with my lunch? And can you help me get
Hmm.
dressed? Can you get me, whatever," to
Yeah.
suddenly, which now I look at as a blessing, right?
Right.
That
Hmm.
now I'm like, wow, it's so cool that I laid that foundation, that my kids do know how to do laundry, that
Yes.
even my youngest, my son, he knows how to make basic dinners. He knows how to
Yeah.
use the stove. He
Right.
is, he's a fairly sustainable preteen boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a little bit of grieving there that I had to go through,
For
and a
sure.
little bit of redirection of purpose where
Hmm.
now I think I'm more of like a guide and a mentor and a listening ear. So
Yeah. And one of the things that I had thought about was I had a friend when I was younger and she was older, and she had her kids were getting older and were moving on and doing things, they were in high school and things like that, and she was trying so hard to hang on to them, and she's like, but they're my kids and they're my life, and I thought to myself, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be so reliant on being a mom that
it's
I
your
don't know
whole
what to
identity.
do. Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself when my kids grow up, because that's inevitable. That's going to happen. So that was kind of like, I guess, the predetermining factor for me to really try to just embrace each season of life as my kids got older. Because I was like, I do not want to be that person where when my kids are gone, I'm like, well, now what? So,
Yeah, it's definitely something that all of us struggle through, and because there's going to be those last, those moms who are
hmm,
listening who you're maybe nursing a baby, like there
yeah.
is going to be a last, and you may
Hmm.
not know when that last is.
Right.
I think of my oldest daughter, my last was, I didn't realize it, but I was pregnant with my second. And then all of a sudden it was just like that chapter was done. And I was like,
Yeah.
how did this happen?
Yeah.
And to do your best to cherish each one, and but also to realize that your relationship and your identity and your purpose is not completely wrapped up in who your kids are.
Right.
Um,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that sometimes happens too. But
For sure. For sure.
all right, well, let's go
Yeah.
on to number 2.
So the next one that I have found is the like loss of control, when you feel like, there's a job loss, there's health scares, there's things that just unexpectedly happen in your life that you're like, whoa, hang on, this was not the plan. Um, you know, uh, Around our house, we say, we make plans, but then God laughs. So, because, you can plan all you want, but if God says, no, that's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So, the Bible verse that I have, with this one is Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And, we um, can just sit in that, like, oh, I didn't get that job, or I didn't move into this house, or whatever. But God has a purpose for why he does what he does and where he leads you to do that. So, I just find that really, like, sitting with him and just really getting into the word and hearing what he says is so important to help you move on, because it's really hard. And especially, I know a lot of people that are type A, where they're like, control, control, control. And, God's like, yeah, right. You think you're in control? Just you wait.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not going to happen.
And I would say most of the time you're not necessarily grieving that particular thing, you're grieving the what could have been,
Correct.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because you have big plans in your mind of, like, my husband and I were, he's like a year and a half, maybe 2 years out from retiring. And our plan is to move to the lake. And we keep talking about it. And this is what we want to do. And da da da. And I always end with God willing, because wherever God takes us, that's where God takes us, and we have to be willing to do what he says. So, um, who knows, like, we could think that's where we're supposed to go, but that could change at the drop of a hat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and sometimes we think that's where we're going and God says, "No, no, 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 no," and then we do it anyway,
yeah.
and then
Oh,
he's like, "I told you."
mm-hmm. Yep,
And
100%. Just like, I'm doing the Bible recap, and I'm
well,
just,
so am I.
oh my gosh, where are you at in it?
I started a little bit later, so yesterday I read the book of Ruth,
Okay.
so
Okay.
now I'm
Yeah.
in First Samuel.
Yeah. Yeah. But so many of the things in there in the first part of that Bible, I'm thinking, why did these people not listen? What? They do not listen. What is wrong? They're not. And then I'm thinking, yeah, uh, as today, we don't listen.
Right, right.
It's like it's the same thing over and over again.
And
So,
I think when you read the Bible that fast, so for those of you guys who are listening who aren't familiar with the Bible recap is it's like basically like a daily devotional. And the goal is from January 1st to December 31st, you'll have read the entire Bible cover to cover.
yeah,
And so when I say yesterday I read the book of Ruth is only 4 chapters, first of
yeah,
all. So it's not, I don't get like an extra credit star. It's only 4 chapters. But that's typically about what you read a day. So it's two,
right.
3, 4 chapters. And at that pace, 365 days, you do finish the Bible in a year, but it's fast and it's a lot.
It is.
Um,
It
and
is a
when you
lot.
read the Bible that fast, within, a month, you could be in multiple different books. And that's when you
Hmm.
see like the Israelites didn't listen. The Israelites didn't listen. Oh,
Hmm.
here they are. They didn't listen again
Yep.
because you're covering 3, 4 chapters a day. So it's a lot faster
Right.
than what it is historically.
Yeah.
Um, but I realized even though I've been a Christian my entire life that
Hmm.
I have never read the Bible cover to cover and
Me either. And I'm the same.
really?
Yep. I've been a Christian my entire life. Never have I read. I mean, there were some books that I'm like, I haven't even I haven't even read anything out of this book. I don't even know what's in here.
Where are you
So,
at in the
yeah.
recap?
I am today. I am in Isaiah. So we're in Isaiah. I think there's 66 chapters in that one. So it's a longer one. But are you doing the chronological one? Are you doing it with Terry Lee Cobble?
Tara Lee Cobble, yeah.
Yeah. So I think yesterday was Chronicles and First or Second Kings, but so we're back and forth in a bunch of different. But I think today was Isaiah. Yeah, it was Isaiah, because he was talking about all the different pagan cities. And it's just, I mean, it is. I'm telling you, it's the best story. It's the best novel out there. Like, if you haven't read it, you should, because there's some really good. You're reading it thinking this happened.
There's some raunchy stuff in
Oh,
there,
for sure.
and
I'm like reading it and I'm like, I looked at because like typically on the weekends, my husband and I are sitting in the drinking our coffee, doing our Bible, and I'm reading. I'm like, did you know? Blah blah blah. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's just like, oh, you are ridiculous. I'm like, this is nuts. And he's like, okay, Danielle.
what people don't often realize, I was just talking with my best friend about this recently, because she's also reading the Bible cover to cover, but she's not following a plan. So she literally
Okay.
just grabbed the Bible and just started reading. And I was
Yeah.
like, do you know that the Bible isn't actually chronological? And I love in the Bible recap how they have you read, what is it, the first 20 chapters of Genesis, and then you hop over to Job.
Yeah.
And then you go back to Genesis, and I never realized that Job happened in the middle of Genesis. But once
Yeah.
I realized that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense because all of that evil that Job was
Mm,
dealing with was
yes.
leading up to the flood.
Yep.
Am I
Hmm.
correct? Did I get that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah.
And then um, what you were saying about like the books that correlate with when the Psalms were written, and
Yes.
yeah, it is. So sorry
And
we
David's
tangented again.
story, and you think, everybody thinks King David and he was so great. Yeah. But he was also a murderer. He was an adulterer. I mean, he was not like this perfect king. He was like, oh my gosh, you are not a very nice person.
Well, and then
You know?
Solomon, like I
Oh
just
my,
read through that where he
700
had,
wives?
I know, and he had this like girl who was like, very persuasive, and she was basically like an undercover spy, and I
Yeah.
just so much of
So
these
crazy.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I'm telling you, pick it up and read it. It's a good story.
It really is,
For
but it just goes
sure.
to your point that, you know, this is part of the human experience
Yeah.
that we think we have a plan. God
Mhm.
says, I don't think that's going to be your plan, but there's always going to be some sort of a grieving process over,
Right.
you know,
Right. And also to what you said, where you're like, well, we just do it anyway. We do, but God is so merciful. And that is one of the things that with the Bible recap, I have really learned is that, which I knew before, but it just really solidifies it. God is so merciful that even when you mess up, He's like, yeah, you messed up. There's going to be a consequence, but we're going to get through it and we're going to move forward. And I'm going to love you through that no matter what. So,
right, right, right.
and it's just that's something every day that I think, man, he really is a loving, merciful, patient God because we've been awful to him for so long, so many different things. So,
So true. So
oh,
true.
man.
I'm interrupting the episode with Danielle. I hope you're really enjoying all of the explanations of the different forms of grief that Danielle had. And I really hope that you go pick up her book. But just a reminder, before you finish this episode, go to soulnaturals.com. Check out those products to help you with hormone balance. And if you're new, use my promo code Kristen, Kristen, for $10 off your order. All right, let's hop back in.
Yeah, so the next one is something that I feel, especially in this time right now, the loss of friendships or family estrangements, or even feeling like you're far from God. I feel like we just, you know, especially in the political era that we're in, and everybody has, I'm right, you're wrong, or you know, they just have the feeling that they can't come together and disagree, like agree to disagree. It's like if you don't believe what I believe, then I'm not going to have anything to do with you. And I feel like with that, there's I had told you previously that my niece is estranged basically, and I at this point am like, well, now it's up to God. I can't do much more about it. Am I sad about it? Absolutely, because she was like, I spent a lot of my life with her. And, I'm sad about that. But also, I know that, you know what? God has a reason for it. And I, like I said, I don't know what that is, but my title, I guess you could say, for this was when you miss them in the joy, for that loss. Because, you still have those memories, the good times that you spent with them. And, that is, will never be taken away from me, and I'll always have that, and everybody will. And the Bible verse is Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. And I am so thankful and happy for those memories that I have. I pray that there's more to come, but that's going to be in God's hands. I can't make that happen, but he can. So, um, that's kind of my thought process for that one. It's just really sad to see so many broken families, and even in the era with divorces and things like that. I have a friend, and her daughter is dealing with her dad not being around, and it's heartbreaking to see families just torn apart. So, um all we can do is pray about that, though.
Well, and it kind of comes back to exactly what we were just talking about. Like we mess up everything.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we are sinners, and relationships are made of very sinful people, and there has to be a lot of grace and there has to be a lot of compassion, but there has to be boundaries too.
For sure.
And I commend you for holding up that boundary because I know how difficult that can be. And
Yeah.
um I recorded an episode a couple months ago. It was I do like a birthday anniversary episode the last couple years since I've had the podcast where I go over like the significant things that I've learned this year, and I called
Yeah.
and one of the things I learned this year was relationships. And I, in the year 41 turning 42, really started to respect myself enough to put up some boundaries.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, the relationships that changed, the
Yeah.
friendships that fell apart,
Mhm.
because I think I had allowed a lot of behavior to happen that wasn't
Mhm.
good because I was just like, well, I'm just trying to be nice, or,
Right.
you know, I should probably do that, or they're probably right, or, I don't, it's okay if they talk to me that way. And I just like hit a point where I was like, that's
Mhm.
not okay. But
Right.
when they come up, I have that Alexa photo screensaver.
Yeah.
When some of those old pictures come up, like it hurts so
Yeah.
bad,
Oh,
you
I
know?
know. And, a lot of the times you hear, when you decide, you like you said, decide to give yourself boundaries. But and that's where there's a fine line, right? Because people who see Christians are like, well, I thought Christians were all about love, and like if you didn't, if you loved them, you would let that happen. And it's like, well, that is true. I do serve a God that is a God of love, but I also serve a God that is just and wrathful, and he will, come and punish the people that aren't following what he says. And I also feel like as you get to be on a platform where you're talking about these things, like God's like, listen, I'm giving you this platform. You better be spreading the right word, because if you're not, you're going to be just like those priests that are like, I'll look at them as the pagans. And so you have like a huge responsibility here. Don't waste it. So it's just, it's so I just think that it's so hard because people have this mentality of, but God is love and you can do whatever, we can do whatever we want. And you can't, you can't shun us or not be okay with what we're doing. No, yeah, I can. I can definitely not be okay with what you're doing, and I can still love you.
I think
I
that
it
is loving, actually.
Right?
Like
Well,
if my kids came home drunk or high every night, wouldn't it be loving to be like, "Hey, you're destroying your life."
yeah,
You
they
know?
wouldn't see it that way.
No, no, but because I love them so much,
Yes, yes, I
I
agree.
or if you're ditching class or you're not getting your
Mhm.
homework in or whatever the age appropriate thing is,
Yeah,
you're not showing up for work, you're whatever,
right.
it's because he loves us so much
Yeah,
that he wants us not to do those immoral or unethical
yeah.
or whatever things, and also because he loves us so much, he's not gonna force himself on us. That he
That's it
gives
too.
us the choice, and he
Mhm.
gives us an entire lifetime up until the moment with the thief on the cross. I mean, and
Yes.
all we have to do is make the decision.
Right.
I was actually just listening to a podcast and they were it was oh, what is her name? Alex Clark. She did an episode on defending Christianity. And I
Mm.
loved one of the things that he said. He said there are several people that have come to Christ because they've looked at it and they said, I live a moral life and I'm a good person and I try to treat
Mhm.
people, you know, in a good manner.
Yeah,
The only thing that separates me from being a Christian is that I need to accept this figure. Now, what is the cost of that? The cost of that is heaven or hell, right?
right.
And, you know, and if it turns out that these people are right, that there is a heaven and hell, wouldn't I be better off just trying to believe it? And then if it turns out that they're wrong, that there isn't a heaven or hell, I still got to be a good person. And I
Mhm.
was like, that is like a really weird way to approach Christianity that if I was a gambling person, I'd be better off gambling on the fact that Christianity is true.
Mhm.
Consequence of it being true and you not believing it is an eternity in hell.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah,
I, I
100%. And so it's really interesting that you brought that up today because I just said to my friend this morning, we were talking about actually about the Bible recap and the all the pagan cities and things like that. And how I said to her, it's really interesting because I had heard one time somebody, and I don't remember who said it, but they were like, if Jesus Christ is not a true God, I'm curious as to why he is constantly persecuted. If you go and you say, "Oh, I believe in Buddha," or "I believe in Allah," people are like, "Oh, okay." And they move on with their day. If you say, "I believe Jesus Christ is my savior," all of a sudden you get like the arrows coming at you, right? And it's like, why is that? Well, it's because the enemy doesn't want you to know the true God because he knows. And so here we go. And so it's just like that, where, yeah, that is that is how I know that he's the God I'm going to follow for sure because it's like you get the enemy attacks you. So yeah.
totally, totally. And then, even like what Tucker Carlson said, he was like, I know demons are true. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that there is dark, dark stuff out there. And so
Hmm.
because I know that is true, that convinced me that God is true. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that is so powerful. But
Hmm.
I don't even remember which one are we on?
I don't know. I'm like
We
looking. I think we're on, let's see, the next one was oh, I know. Okay.
So we
The
were finishing up like the grief over, loss of relationship with a family member,
yeah,
loss
yeah,
of
yeah.
friendship. Um,
Yep. Mhm.
friendship is a really interesting topic. I've done a couple podcasts specifically on friendship and the grief and the hurt that surrounds friendship and
Yeah.
parental relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I just want to say this to everybody out there. Your parents will never have been perfect. And,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that things that they do or say, and I'm not saying that healthy boundaries aren't appropriate, but um, every single parent out there messed up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you're a parent, you're messing up too. And
Every
so
day.
there there
Every
there
day.
has to be grace upon grace upon grace, but at the
Mhm.
same time, there are times when those relationships do have to have some strict boundaries, and that
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah, it's hard. It is really hard. It is really, really hard. With that one, I have found, like, I wrote down here that, when you are in the midst of that, I have found that moving your body, which is so hard for people when they're dealing with sadness of any kind, is super important. And it really helps you to get clarity, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. That is when I get my downloads for everything. When I'm working out, that's when God talks to me. I hear all the things when I'm moving my body. And I think that that is one thing where the enemy just wants you to be sedated and weak, and when we move, we get strong and we just like open our minds to hearing God. So I just think that's super important for all of these topics of, any kind of loss or sadness. I think that is a huge thing, is to just move your body. So
Well, and holistically, there is no better anti-anxiety,
mhm.
anti-depression medication. As a matter of fact, walking is literally one of the best things you can do for your body.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It helps to just kind of like, I feel like when you're anxious and all of that, just because of anything that's going on, and you get out and you just even walk, like you said, when you come back, you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better now, just a little more grounded. So I think that's just super important.
For sure. Let's go to number
So,
4 before we go on
yeah.
another tangent.
Yeah, yeah. So the next one is loss of age or body function. So I know as women, as we get older, our, the whole perimenopause, menopause, but also like, as I was thinking about this, the just what you used to be able to do when you were younger. Like if you were an athlete, or even just as a mom, when I was younger, I could run around a lot better with my kids. There's just so many changes that happen in our bodies, that it, there's days when I'm like, I am like, why am I so sore? I mean, I'm in my 50s and I'm like, it should not be this hard to walk up a flight of stairs. But I, my title for this was I'm strong, but I'm still healing. And, I feel like you are going to walk through things, and the more, again, you move, the stronger you're going to get. And um the Bible verse that I correlated with this one was Isaiah 40:29. He gives strength to the weary and increases power of the weak. And you know when we lean on him, we have his strength. So he is going to carry us through anything that we don't have enough strength to get through. But we have to lean on him. We can't just do it on our own understanding. So, and I feel like that sometimes can be so difficult for people to, they think, I can do it. I can do it. Yeah. But guess what? You would not be as like drained or tired if you let him help you along the way. Let him carry you, let him do. Here's the backpack. Let him carry, like, put his hand underneath that backpack and just walk it along with you, and let him do that. Like, he's there for it. Um, so yeah, I think that that is just, we just try to rely on ourselves instead of really letting Christ into that. So, um, but, and as our bodies change as women, it's like I'm thinking, what is happening right now? It's so ridiculous. And I'm like, wait, like, how come women didn't talk about this before? Like, could you have at least let us know that this was coming?
It's so funny that you bring that up because, I've changed my whole social media presence focus to perimenopause because
Yeah.
of my own personal experience, and like nobody explained this. And
Mm-mm.
one of my mentors, she's actually in the menopause part of it.
Mhm.
And she was like, Kristen, I want you to know that this new generation of women who are going through perimenopause and menopause are not going to be quiet about it. The next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, women are going to get loud
Mhm.
because it used to be just shut up, be quiet, suffer, deal
Yeah.
with it. And I'm not like a huge like women's rights kind of thing. Like
Right. Yeah.
I try to stay away from the whole women-owned business kinda stuff. I
Mm.
don't like all of that separation stuff,
Right.
but I will say that this is an area where I'm like, "Yes, we need to be louder." I just did a post this morning that
I
said
saw I saw it. It was
that
awesome. I
the,
loved it.
um I don't even remember what I wrote anymore. 35 what is it? 35 to 55 is the
This is
highest incidence of suicide in women.
suicide. Mhm. Yep.
And ironically, that is literally when perimenopause starts. And having
Mhm.
experienced that myself, I couldn't figure out what the heck happened to me in 2023. And now that I know what I know about hormones and
Mhm.
progesterone, I guarantee you I started perimenopause in
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
And just the mental health crisis, and it was a different kind of mental health. It wasn't like the anxiety I had experienced when my kids were little and in college and stuff like this.
Right.
This was like a totally different game.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're drained and you're tired and you're like you can't
the
and from
dread,
Oh,
panic.
and I felt my body was I was in so much pain. My joints were just I was like, "What is going on? Why am I in so much pain?" Like this is so there were a lot of different things exactly what you were talking about and I am like now I know and I'm like this is what's happened to me, people. So just beware. This is what's going on.
And, like, my
So,
feet cramping up, and then people would
oh,
be like, "Oh, you just need more magnesium," and I do holistic wellness, that's what I do. I just had to change I believe in a both and. Like, I think you can go to the doctor and you can get some amazing things that can help you along with some holistics, and so that's the
yeah.
message that I've been preaching, but then when and people just kept saying, "Oh, you just need magnesium, magnesium, magnesium." I was like, "I'm already doing magnesium." Well, come to find out that that's a symptom of progesterone dropping. And I was like, "Oh,
See,
that
there you
makes
go.
sense."
Well, and I
Um,
when I went to the doctor, he was like, "Well, I can't really find." And then the weight was just ridiculous. I was like, "What is?" I cannot. For 6 months, I was working out every single day, and not losing an ounce. And I'm like, "What is happening right now? This is like I am so frustrated." And then the doctor was like, "Well, I could put you on some anti-anxiety medicine." But I don't necessarily and I was like, "Listen, I am trying to not gain weight here. Putting me on any kind of medication that might make me gain weight is just gonna cause more problems for me. So I'm not doing that." So then I went on a tangent of researching natural remedies. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to take ginger, turmeric, garlic, cayenne pepper. And my husband's like,
maca
what are
root.
you doing? Yes. And I was like,
Mhm.
listen, all of these things are going to help. And he was like, do they really help? Are they helping you? I'm like, actually, yes, they are. And he's like, well, I'm going to start taking them. I'm like, okay, you do whatever you want to do, but this is helping me. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Well, and,
but
there going back to, like, grieving that, we're in a culture where, like, I am not against, taking care of yourself and, like, you
yeah.
you wanna go do what you wanna do a little Botox, do a little whatever you're gonna do. Like, do I love it? No. Do do I think it gets overused? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, like, there's such public pressure that I am seeing girls my age who are actually looking way older because they're getting so much work done.
Yeah.
And, but I'm embarrassed of the wrinkles in my forehead and the double chin and like the things like that because there's such a pressure to look a
Yeah.
certain way and you're
Yep.
grieving how you looked when you were 20, but when you
Yep.
were 20, you had no idea how beautiful you were, you know?
Right. Exactly. And you're beautiful now. So, and that it actually is in the next devotional that I'm writing. It's a faith and fitness one. And one of my big reasons for writing that one was actually coming to find so many women, even women that I look at and think you guys are fit. I don't understand why you think this, but they have such body image problems. And you know, the actually what I wrote here is so funny that you even talked about that because I wrote, you are not the image you see in the mirror because the enemy likes to blind you from what God sees. You are his child, a child of the king. You're perfect. So, regardless of what you think, and I can guarantee you that you tell somebody, I see this, this, and this wrong with me, and they're going to come back and say, I don't see that. I see this, this, and this right with you. So it's all in our minds that we just and the body dysmorphia. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. So,
It's so ridiculous, and all these filters and, I
mhm.
mean, they even have filters now to, like, make your lips look bigger,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
It's just
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it is
It is
absolutely
crazy.
crazy. So
So,
number 5, let's go to number
yeah.
5.
So the final one is the backpack in the road. The loss of our dreams. So something that never happened, you just grieve like I mean, if you always wanted a baby and you didn't have a baby or a career that you thought you were going to have. I always thought I was going to be a teacher. It didn't happen. Well, I mean, I was early childhood. I always thought I'd be elementary teacher. It never was really that, but the job that you thought you were going to have, the area you thought you were going to move to, or you were going to live in a certain spot, or all of those things that you just had like big dreams about what was going to be. And especially for me now at 50, I'm like, I don't really think that I have the time left to do whatever I really wanted to do. Like, would I want to go back to school? That doesn't sound great. No, I don't think I want to do that. You know, so I feel like there's a lot of grieving that goes on with that, where you're just like, well, or, you know, this person has a family and has like we all do keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like they have this car, they have this in their house, they have that. You know what? And we get to the point where we're like, oh, man, I wish I had that. It's like, you know what? God's like, you know what? I've got you. You need to just follow me and I'm going to give you what you need. And the verse that I correlated with this one was Psalm 23:6. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And with that, I felt like, we might grieve the loss of these dreams, but our dreams are going to be the best ever once we're home and we're in heaven. We're going to be like, oh, why was I even thinking about any of that? You know? Um, and I also feel like with that one, that is where community comes in and just is so important. You have to have your group of people that you can just lean on with all of that. Um, there's times when I'm like, man, I'm sad because I didn't do this. But then, like I just said to you, but then they come and they say, yeah, but what about X, Y, and Z that you did? Or you have this going on? And it's like, hi, yeah, you're right. I need that. I need to not think about, and I need to pay attention to what I have that's great, you know?
Right,
So,
right, right.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. And, kinda going back to the backpack concept that, some of these days are gonna be really hard,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just thinking as you were talking, like, I always wanted 4 kids. The Lord blessed me with 3.
Yeah.
And there's a joke in our church where the pastor jokes about like how many kids there are and like they can't keep up with the nursery and whatever. And he's like, I swear everyone in this church has 4 kids. He has no idea because he's just joking when he says that, but that like hits like a little like, oh, I always wanted 4 kids. And
Yeah.
everyone in this church has 4 kids. And I want to like raise my hand and be like, well, I wanted 4 kids, but I only got
Yeah.
3. And it's so silly. It's so stupid. Well, it's not stupid, but it's
No.
insignificant. And I guarantee you that there's other people in that church that are like, well, Kristen has 3 kids. I only want one, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and
For sure.
so,
Or I have 4. You want one of mine?
right, right.
I can give you one. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. And so, that just kind of proves that sometimes the backpack's really heavy, sometimes
Yeah.
it's lighter, and sometimes we don't realize the backpack people are carrying. Like, I can bet a
Yes.
$1,000,000 that my pastor has no idea that there's a little sting when he makes that joke on
Oh,
a
for
Sunday
sure.
morning. No clue.
No.
No clue.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
if I ever told him, he would be like, "Oh my gosh, like I would have never thought." And I would never want him not to say that just because of that. But
Right.
um, just a realization that everyone's carrying around little backpacks, and so maybe we could be a little bit kinder, you know?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. It's and you never know, like we talked about, there's so many, you never know exactly what that loss looks like for people. And sometimes I know that I don't realize that some of these things that are not a huge thing for me that we talked about are a really, really big thing for other people. So, it's just that's where you have to kind of just give people grace and be able to walk alongside them and be like, hey, I can walk along with you with this, and I can stand next to you, and I can be the person to help you along this road, but God's going to carry it for you, and just to help them through it. So, and that really culminates the whole reason I even did this, was because people just get stuck in their sadness. And for me, it was heartbreaking because I know the end game, I know where I'm going, and I know that it's going to be a big party when we get there. And I was just like, I want to be happy and have fun with the people that I'm here with now. Like, let's have a party here right now,
Right, right.
and if I can help you to get out of your sadness just a little bit, then I did my job for that day.
Amen.
So, I and so that's my whole mission. So,
Love that. Love that. Well, Danielle, I think that about wraps it up.
yeah.
If you're someone who is walking through some of these heavy backpack things, be sure to pick up her book, The Backpack of Grief, and remember that grief isn't just when someone passes away in your life. It could be so many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.